Last week, I was down at Pro Smoke at a barbecue class, helping to film some content for a brand, and the guest chef, Marcus Borden, was cooking up tri-tip and some chimichurri new potatoes. It was really good, made me want to cook a tri-tip again. So I'm going to do something kind of similar today, over some direct heat, over some wood. I think it's going to be pretty good. So as I say, I picked up one of those tri-tips, and prepping this up is going to be really simple. This is looking nice. I'm gonna quickly peep the grain direction, kind of figure out where it changes. Obviously on a tri-tip, the grain goes this way on the longer bit, and on this part, it goes kind of that way. When it comes to slicing this up, I'm gonna cut it like this, up into around here, and then we'll move along and cut it like this. I'm not gonna do too much in the way of prep, might just take this really thin end off here. And all we're gonna do on the fat cap side is just give it a real light scoring, and I'm using my Savanac boning knife. There'll be a link in the description where you can buy this with 30% off, and that's looking pretty good. Gonna hit this with a real nice amount of Diamond Crystal kosher salt. You could dry brine this overnight. I'm not gonna do today. I'm gonna be getting this on in about an hour, hour and a half, something like that. So we might have a little bit of dry brine action going on, but not a huge amount. We can always finish this off with some flaky sea salt once it's sliced. Get some salt into the center. And that's looking really good. Scored up the fat, plenty of salt. Stick this onto a wire tray, and this can just hang out in the kitchen for an hour, hour and a half, something like that. Let it come up in temperature to something that isn't fridge cold. And while that is happening, we're gonna get some wood into the chud pit. As you can probably see, it's been raining, so everything's kind of wet. Get a nice little fire going in here. Let this burn down into some coals, and we'll come back in a little bit. And while the chud box is burning down those splits of wood, we're gonna make some roasted chimichurri baby potatoes. Just got some baby potatoes here, and a pot. Chicken stock cube. Should have used a bigger pot, as always. I will get these onto the boil, just wanna soften them up so they're not raw. We are gonna be roasting these, so don't need to get them completely tender. So while these potatoes are on the boil, we're gonna make up a chimichurri. And this is going to be very much a lazy man's chimichurri. Normally I'd cut this all up by hand, but we're going to use the stick blender method. This is something that I saw Marcus do, and it's just far easier. Slightly different texture, but equally delicious. So we're going to go in with a nice big handful of parsley, most of the big chunky stems removed, a red chili, 4 cloves of garlic. I like it to be really garlicky. Big pinch of salt, big pinch of pepper, a nice amount of oregano. And then for our liquid amounts, I like to go with 2 parts olive oil to 1 part red wine vinegar. We've got quite a lot of dry ingredients in here, so this big shot glass thing should take us to roughly where we need to be in terms of the liquid components. That's 2 parts olive oil and 1 part red wine vinegar. And I like mine to be a little bit more acidic than most. Quite often you'll see 3 to 1 olive oil to vinegar. And then annoyingly, this doesn't reach from my plug to this table, so I'm going to blend this up over here. And this is what we're left with, almost like an emulsified chimichurri. As I say, a bit different to what I usually do, but this works really, really well. Give it a taste. A little bit more salt. Perfect. We'll set that to the side and keep that out of the fridge. So this wood is starting to break down nicely. The flames aren't too big on here, so I think what I'm gonna do is get the tri-tip on, get a little bit of a fat render going on that fat cap. And the lid on this chud box is actually open, so these flames are a little bit bigger than they would be once we close it up. So I think we will get our tri-tip on. And once we shut the lid down on this, if the flames are still a little bit leery, we will just knock them around a little bit until they're not reaching too high up. So we'll shut this lid down. That's going to temper some of those flames. This should calm down nicely. So this tri-tip is just going to smoke away and cook away nicely, about 18 inches above this fire. Come back in a bit. And while that tri-tip is cooking away, we're going to take a little roasting tray and a healthy amount of beef dripping or beef tallow. And we're going to put this into the oven around 430 Fahrenheit or 220 Celsius, ready to roast up these potatoes. So 15-20 minutes later, these potatoes are probing nice and tender. So I've just drained them off, and they can just sit here and steam away, dry out a little bit, because we are going to roast them. So we don't want too much water on the surface of them when they go in. So a little bit of an update on how I'm cooking this tri-tip. So I was cooking with the lid down on the chud box and just trying to cook with just raw coals, no flame, but I wasn't quite getting enough heat into this tri-tip. So I've kind of gone back to cooking with an open flame with the lid open, and it seems to be cooking really well. You can see the flame is quite low, and it's actually drawing a little bit in here as well. And you might think that this tri-tip would be burning, but it's been humming along on here for the last half an hour, 40 minutes or so, and it's cooking really, really nicely. I'm just going to keep adding splits of wood as I need them. Nothing seems to be burning too quick or too crazy. The flames aren't too high. Nothing's going to burn. This is still cooking very slow, which is good, and it's what we want. And the tri-tip is getting some real nice fat render. So yeah, we're just going to keep cooking like this. Seems to be working. So it's been about an hour or so, and I've really been enjoying cooking this kind of open flame style cooking on the chub box with the wood splits. I've done this plenty of times before on Argentinian style grills, that kind of thing, but not really on the chub box. So we got some nice fat render going on this tri-tip. It's pretty hot, but I'll try and show you that. Looking really good. Gone crispy, which is good. And we're gonna flip this over, leaner side down. And the most important thing, I'm gonna be inserting my Chef's Temp Pro Temp Plus probe into this piece of meat because I really wanna make sure that we get this at the right temperature that I'm after, which is about 140 Fahrenheit, something in that region. But it is way too rainy, cold, and miserable today for me to be coming out here and checking it with my Insta-Read thermometer every 10 minutes or so. So Chef's Temp Pro Temp Plus thermometer is going to go in, and I'm just going to simply monitor the internal temperature of this tri-tip from my phone. And even better, the Chef's Temp app is going to alert me once it gets to the temperature that I want it to. So this can just hang out here, keep cooking over this open flame. The Chef's Temp Pro Temp Plus is going to keep an eye on it, and we'll be alerted when we've got a perfect medium tri-tip cooked on this chub box. So after about an hour of preheating, this beef dripping or beef tallow is roasting hot, and we're going to go in with our new potatoes or baby potatoes, and I promise you, you will taste the beef flavor coming through on these potatoes. They're going to be delicious, and these are going to go back into the oven for about 25 minutes. I got those in pretty quick because I don't want the oil to cool down, but we really just want a nice crisp and a nice roast on the underside, and then we'll flip them. So 25 minutes or so later on these roasted baby potatoes, they should be nice and crispy on the underside. So we're going to give them a flip. Looking good. These are going to be so much better when we do this little move to them. Given the old Jamie Oliver treatment, we're going to take a potato masher and we're just going to crush them down just a little bit, maximize the surface area, get some of that fluffy potato exposed, and this is just going to mean that we're going to end up with a much more crispier, crunchier potato than we would have if we just left them whole. Something like that is probably about right. And just to make sure we're extra crispy, we're going to baste these a little bit with this tallow, this beef dripping, make sure that there's plenty in there so everything crisps up real nice and good. These will go back into the oven for another 25 minutes. 20 minutes or so later, gonna give these a flip. They are looking very, very good. Nice and crispy. You cannot beat the smell of frying beef fat. Real quick flip, going back in. So about 2 hours after this tri-tip went on, my Chef's Temp Pro Temp Plus is telling me that this is an internal temperature of 140 degrees Fahrenheit. And it hasn't let me down so far, so I'm gonna take this off, take it inside and let it rest. This tri-tip is looking absolutely delicious. We've got nice crispy rendered fat on top. And I'm not gonna lie, I've picked some of this off and it is delicious. There's a nice amount of aged flavor going on. So I think this is wet aged in the bag, which is really good. It's perfectly seasoned, nice and salty. I think this is gonna be great. And the Chef's Temp Pro Temp Plus has almost certainly got me spot on with the temperatures. So we're gonna let this rest for 15, 20 minutes, something like that. So these roasted baby potatoes are about as crispy as I want them. And we're gonna go into a bowl lined with some kitchen paper, dry them out a little bit. We want them extra crispy. And this will kind of help get rid of some of that residual oil. Remove the paper, hit them with a little bit of salt, and then we're gonna drizzle over some of our chimichurri. Not too much, just enough to coat. Give them a toss. And they are gonna be some of the best roasted baby new potatoes you've ever had. Moving on to the tri-tip, this is looking very good. I cannot wait to cut into this. I cannot wait to try some. Let's give it a cut, see how it comes out. Also, I noticed tri-tip tends to leak a lot of liquid, so this has been resting for about 15 minutes or so, but it still may leak quite a bit. I think that's a perfect cook. Nicely rendered fat cap on top there. Tell you what, I'm a big fan of that open fire cooking on the chub box there. I'll definitely be giving it a go again. I love that fat render. And then we'll go on with our chimichurri baby roast potatoes. And we obviously got to hit this tri-tip with chimichurri as well. Look at that. I mean, that is looking very, very good. Those roast potatoes, nice and crispy, covered in that chimi. Perfect cook on the tri-tip. Might be a little bit over on the top there where I was trying to render that fat, but I think it'll be good, especially down this thicker end. It might get a little bit more rare. Let's give this tri-tip a go. Yeah, smoky, even got a little bit of a smoke ring going on there. And I definitely think medium for a tri-tip is perfect. I just find that it tends to be too tough at a medium rare. See what I mean? 15-minute rest, still leaks, always does. Perfectly seasoned as well. I said that I might add some flaky salt if it's not seasoned enough, but plenty salty on the outside with that fat, kind of carries the flavor all the way through the bite. And as boring as chimichurri might be, when it comes to YouTube anyway, everyone does it, it's been done a million times. I don't think there's a better sauce to add to a steak like this. Let's get into one of these ultra crispy, super crunchy chimichurri roast potatoes. Tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna layer up a little bit of tri-tip on there, give it a bite. Those are ridiculous. Like the beef tallow, the beef dripping makes all the difference. Crispy, fluffy on the inside. Roast potatoes have been one of my favorite things to eat since I was a child. Add that chimichurri to it and it just takes it to another level. Oh, why do you do this? I usually crush my potatoes just to get a little bit more surface area, and I would highly recommend you do the same. So I'm gonna cut a little bit more of this tri-tip off from the other side, the other muscle. I guess it's a different muscle. There we go. Absolutely perfect. Oh yeah, the perfect bite. Crispy potato, a little bit of chimichurri on top. And yeah, I have to say, I really do like that open fire, kind of exposed flame cooking with the lid up on the chub box. Not something I've done before. It's nice and slow, nice and gentle. Real easy way to cook. So that is it for this video. I really hope you give these recipes a try. They truly were delicious. And remember, you can get 25% off all Chef's Temp products on the Chef's Temp website using the code on screen. I genuinely do recommend the products that I use on this channel. So thanks very much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, do all those things. It really, really does help me out. And I'll see you next week for another video.